Hi again. Here we are to talk about jQuery and JavaScript. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make an example that creates sort of a pop-up dialog box that'll appear in the middle of the screen. Okay. So here's the example that we had before, and I'm gonna remove this and kind of start from scratch here. What we need to keep though is we need to keep the link to jQuery and then the script tag. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with setting up the dialog box, okay? So what I'll do is I'll add a div tag here, and I'll give it the class modal, okay? And you could give it an ID too. It could be an ID if you like. And then what I want to do is I want to add another div inside. And the reason I'm going to have two of these is the outer div is going to cover the entire screen, and it'll have a background color that's partially transparent, so it'll sort of gray out the background. And the inner div here will be the dialog box, okay? So I'll give this guy a class name, and I'll call him like dialog box. How about that? That's a good name, right? So something like that. And then inside the dialog box you could have whatever you want to do, like an H1, hello world, right? You could have a paragraph here of some kind. Say this is a modal dialog box. How about that, right? So you got a simple thing. And you could do you can put a picture in here, whatever you want to do. Okay. So this part won't use any JavaScript. It's all going to be CSS. So let's just get the dialog box to appear in the middle of the screen. So to do this, we're going to use a little CSS and use absolute position. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to say modal. You are going to be you're going to have the property position absolute. Okay. And then I'm going to set the width to 100% and the height to 100%. Okay, so hopefully it takes up the whole screen. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a background color. So we'll say background RGBA, and maybe I'll make it black and 75% transparent. Okay. Okay. And so now I've got that. Now I want to put the dialog box in the center of the modal background. So this guy's called class dialog box. I'll do dialog box, and then we'll say you are going to have a width of maybe 300 pixels, a height of 300 pixels. Maybe let's do a border radius of 20 pixels, a background color of white. Maybe I'll do padding of 1em, which is going to make the size a little bigger than 300, but no big deal, right? So we'll do padding of 1em, and then we'll call that done. Maybe I should do text align center. I don't know. We'll just leave that alone. Okay. Anyway, so there we go, right? So I've got a few things. And then what I want to do is I want to position this dialog box in the middle of the screen. Let's take a look at what we have. Oh, there we go. Maybe that 300 by 300 is a little too big, right? Let's make it like 200 by 200. Actually, this is so big because I actually increased the size there, but yeah, I think that's okay. There's a smaller dialog box, right? Okay, so how do we get this guy in the middle of the screen? Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to set the position property of the dialog box to absolute, and then we'll set the left to 50% and the top to 50%. Okay, and this won't be exactly in the middle, but you'll see, right? We're gonna have to do a little bit more, so I'll do that. And you'll notice here that the left edge is in the center, right? So the left edge is 50% and the top edge is 50%. So the center is right here. And that's not quite what we want. We want the middle here. So what we need to do is we need to move the box over half its width and up half its height. And there's a couple ways you could do that. You could use calc, right? So I could say calc, oops, I did the wrong one here. I could do left of calc 50% minus, 100 pixels, right? And then actually I'd have to add in the padding too. But something like this, like you'll see, like if I do calc and then I do this, you can see the box moves over, right? Because I subtracted 100 pixels from the 50%. And actually in our case, since the width is actually 200 plus 1em, I'd have to actually subtract another 1em to actually get it exactly in the middle. It should be a little bit off there, but now it should be on. So that's okay. That's one method you could use. Another alternate method is to use Webkit transform translate, and then we'll do negative 50%. In this case, the 50% is the size of the box, not the size of the screen, where the 50% for left and top are screen, screen sizes, okay? This WebKit works in Chrome and Safari. If you want to do this with Firefox, you'll have to add the Mozilla version, right? So we'll do Mozilla transform translate, right? Let's test that out. So you can see here that now it's in the middle, right? So that's okay. We could do this method, and then if you want to do Opera, I guess you got to do the O, and then I think actually, if you need to do, I forget, I think Internet Explorer is just this one. I could be wrong, but you can look it up if it doesn't work. There you go. Oops, I saved that by mistake. So there we go, right? So now we've got our box in the middle of the screen, and that's our dialog box. I still have a problem here, like this doesn't quite reach the edge, and that's because the body tag has a margin on it. So what I think we'll need to do here is we'll need to say, body, margin 0. Okay, and if you have a reset style sheet, then you won't even need that, but there we go. Now our dialog box covers the screen, okay? So anyway, so thanks for watching there, and that'll set us up, and then what we'll do is we'll add a button to display the dialog box and a button in the dialog box to close it, right? Why don't we add that close button here? I think that's probably a good thing to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the close button inside the dialog box here and put it at the bottom, okay? And I'll call it, I'll give it a class name, and we'll call it close button. Okay, so there we go, close button. And then what we'll do is we'll style the close button. So we'll say dot close button, right? And then what we'll do is we'll give it a width of 30 pixels, a height of 30 pixels, a border radius of 50%, which should make the border radius 15 by 15, which makes it a circle. And then maybe we'll give it a border of 2 pixels solid, and maybe give it like a dark color, dark gray. And so that should give us our circle, right? And if I refresh, it's over here. But what I want to do is I want to put it in the upper corner, right? So to do that, we'll use position absolute again, right? And then we can say right of negative 15 pixels, right? Okay. We could use transform translate, but this is a lot shorter, so we'll do that. And then we'll say top of negative 15 pixels, right? So I chose half the height and width, so that it would be halfway outside the box here, right? You can see there it is now. Oh, you know what? I should have put a background color on there. Let's do that. Let's say background is going to be white. How about that, right? Oh, there we go. So now there's our close box, right? So anyway, so hopefully that's, I keep hitting save by mistake, right? So hopefully that's useful to you and interesting, right? You could add other styles here. You could put a X or something in there. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But there's our thing. So if we have a button here that opens the box, we'll use this button to close it. Okay. So thanks for watching.